Coming up on Lawmakers, the nation's longest-serving speaker, the Honorable Thomas Murphy, may want to serve longer. Governor Roy Barnes wants to balance smart budget cuts and wise spending. And Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor joins us for an exclusive live one-on-one interview.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Tuesday, January 15th. Here are your hosts, Gerald Bryant and Susan Hoffman.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's broadcast, Senator Zell Miller says he's tired of Washington's petty partisan politics.
And is your auto insurance card really proof of insurance? We're going to have that story, plus an update on reapportionment.
A reminder, nightly business report, normally seen at this time, will be on at midnight. Now, tonight's lead story.
Just shy of an all-out confession, House Speaker Tom Murphy comes as close as he's going to get to saying he will seek re-election in the fall. The Speaker, in office since 1961, is closing in on his 78th birthday. He's had some health issues, including a stroke in recent years, but says he's feeling good and he plans to consult his doctor and make an announcement when the time is right.
As far as I know, my health is good. I feel good. I feel the best I've felt in 10 years, to tell you the truth. And that I will talk to my doctors, and then I'll make a decision at the proper time as to what I'm going to do.
The Speaker first alluded to his future plans at this morning's Eggs and Issues breakfast. I caught up with him later to confirm his thoughts. I also asked him if he thought the Republican plan to appoint a regional board to oversee Hartsfield International Airport was a good idea. Right now, no.
The airport belongs to Atlanta. It's their airport. They built it. They took the flag for it. They paid debt on it. The federal money's already been paid in. There's no reason. I understand Congressman Eisen say it might affect the federal money, but it's already been paid in. It's there ready for it, and so it won't affect the federal money. And I think it would be ridiculous for us to start assuming the debt of the airport, because the airlines are paying for it, and let's let them continue to pay for it as far as I'm concerned.
What impact would it have on the state and other airports in the state if you think you set that precedence of taking it over with a board?
I think that would be the next step. Macon would want us to take theirs over, Columbus would want us to take theirs over, and we just don't need to get in it no deeper than we are.
Thus far, other Democrats, such as Lieutenant Governor Taylor and Majority Caucus Chair Representative Calvin Smyre, are taking a wait-and-see approach to this issue. If it gains any speed, we'll let you know.
Well, once a year, politics are part of a hearty breakfast for Georgia's top lawmakers and hundreds of business leaders. That tradition continued today with the annual Eggs and Issues breakfast at the Georgia World Congress Center. Governor Roy Barnes, Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor, and Speaker of the House Tom Murphy served up their legislative agendas to a crowd of nearly 2,000. The governor talked about the need to cut costs in a year when Georgia is coping with recession.
I believe that the budget proposals that I sent to the Appropriations Committees last week has a balanced approach, really based upon a lot of what President Bush is doing in returning our state to economic viability. We do that through some cuts. Downturns in government should be the same way that it is in business. It should be an opportunity to re-examine programs. It should be an opportunity to re-examine efficiencies and to make cuts and lean up just like business does. At the same time, if you're in good financial shape in business, as the state is in good financial shape, you should take advantage of low interest rates and lowered construction costs.
Well, despite his plan to reduce spending in many areas, Governor Barnes remains committed to tax relief for homeowners.
In these tough times, one of the best ways to stimulate the economy is to put money back into the hands of people so that they have it to invest or to spend. Now, the proposed amended budget that I have sent to the General Assembly included nearly $250 million of property tax relief for the citizens of Georgia, which combined with $104 million I will present tomorrow to the General Assembly in the FY 2003 budget, will amount to over $350 million in property tax relief this year.
Investment in infrastructure paid for with a bond issue instead of cash is another strategy the governor hopes will stimulate the economy.
I have sent to the General Assembly, and will send to the General Assembly tomorrow, a bond package that includes this. The first part of the bond package would provide $621 million to fast-track construction on school buildings of K through 12, including the funds necessary to complete the construction of the classrooms that we need to guarantee lower class sizes that came out of the education reform effort. This gives children a better chance to learn. We know that the #1 achievement gap closing tool, it's been shown now through studies, is smaller classes.
House Speaker Tom Murphy predicted the budget will be the main issue in the 2002 General Assembly, but also emphasized the need to focus on natural resources.
There is one issue that we need to give a lot of attention to. We have a water crisis in Georgia, whether you know it or not, or whether you believe it or not. It's a tremendous crisis. We already have an intrusion of salt water in the aquifers and the coast. We have shortage of water all over North Georgia. You know what situation the city of Atlanta is in, and we have to do something. And we have to make some progress on these water wars with Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. We have to make some progress, or Georgia's progress is going to be seriously damaged.
Getting back to the budget, the main topic at the Eggs and Issues breakfast, Speaker Murphy told the crowd that despite decreased revenues and spending cuts, Georgia is in better fiscal shape than the rest of the southern states. Well, we have heard tonight from Governor Barnes and House Speaker Murphy. Now we continue with the lawmakers' tradition of inviting Georgia's top elected officials to join us for in-depth conversations on the issues. We begin this year's talks with Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor. Lawmakers correspondent Hamilton Northcutt is here with the Lieutenant Governor to discuss the 12-point agenda for the State Senate unveiled just yesterday on the first day of this legislative session. Hamilton?
Thank you, Gerald, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor Taylor, for making time for us on this very busy first week of the session.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly. I want to start off talking about the budget, and we'll talk generally in a moment. We've been hearing so much about limited revenues coming in and the cuts that will be necessary, but one specific item related to the budget, Medicaid. There is a tremendous shortfall in Medicaid funding to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. How will this affect the budget?
Well, certainly it tightens the budget, and Medicaid is a wonderful program that helps poor people with their health care. It helps the elderly and the disabled with their health care, and certainly it's a great blessing to live in a country like ours where we can provide health care to the needy. It started back in the mid-70s as a $5 million investment, and now it is well over a $1 billion state program. The federal government sends us $2 billion plus of our federal tax dollars back to support this program. It is a big, big part of our budget. It is inflating dramatically, and we are in that point in time, as we generally do about every 10 years, where all of the states are facing a Medicaid challenge. It is another real reassurance that we have our budget surplus, so that we have a opportunity to deal with shortfalls like this. We have our rainy day funds that we hope not to have to use this year to help us in future years. And also there are some legislative activities in Washington where the nation's governors and others are advocating for changes in the Medicaid program at the federal level that will help us with this shortfall.
Will some of the surplus funds, a lot of the surplus funds, go toward making up the shortfall?
Not this year. We are able to prepare through our budgeting for a budget that reflected the fact that we have been carrying forward some shortfalls in Medicaid, and those are coming home to roost this year. Again, the overall budget, as we look at our situation where we've had a slight decline in revenues this year in Georgia, and we're going to cut our budget across the board 2.5% here in the mid-year budget, looking at 5% cuts next year, is the type of management tools that are necessary to deal with challenges in the budget like Medicaid. But it's really a pretty strong year for human services. We've been very aggressive in improving the level of human services that we're providing, including Medicaid, and we're not going to cut back on the people that we're serving. We're not going to be able to add people who need these services, but this will be a budget year where we don't have to cut back on the people that we're serving.
Looking at the overall budget picture, the 2.5% cuts for the rest of this fiscal year, 5% for next year, Where will those cuts have to be made?
Well, generally, they're coming across the board. We're asking every department, every state agency to look at their personnel issues, to not fill positions that were previously unfilled. We're asking them to hold back on some new spending initiatives. And basically, there's very, very few departments of state government that are escaping the call for 2.5% budget cuts. And to this point, we have a good cooperative effort between the legislature and the executive branch to manage these cuts, and everyone is stepping up and taking their fair share. The General Assembly is going to do the same thing with our legislative budget.
Now, Governor Barnes has said that he wants to continue, he's committed to continuing to provide property tax relief. But with the reduced revenues coming in, the recession, the weak economy, are we looking at a tax increase at some point, not too far down the road?
We certainly hope not. We will move mountains to prevent that from happening. That's just not part of the way that you continue to grow a state. We're committed to the idea of cutting taxes in Georgia, and we're in the middle of an 8-year program to make the first $50,000 of everyone's home property tax-free at state expense, not local government expense, not at school board expense. That's planned for, and in the planning for that 8-year tax cut, we realized that there would be some good years and some slower years. So we're committed. And we want to make sure that if nothing else happens this year, that we continue with the property tax cut program, and that we, again, set ourselves apart this year as a southern state that can provide a pay raise for our teachers.
You held a news conference yesterday and assured Georgians that the natural gas issue will be resolved this year. But there are a lot of problems with costs, with fairness, with shutoffs, with timely billing, just to name a few of the problems. What are the solutions to this?
Well, there are a lot of solutions, and certainly even when we complete our work this year, there will probably be people disappointed that their natural gas bill keeps coming every month. Kind of like taxes. Wish we didn't have to pay for natural gas. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of people in the last year that decided, well, if some folks are not able to pay their natural gas bill, I won't pay mine either. That's one thing that we have to eliminate in the coming year, is that incentive for people that can't afford to pay not to pay. But there are some very serious issues for people on fixed income, our elderly, and we have an issue in front of us that has got to be dealt with. We'll debate whether we should go back to a fully regulated natural gas marketplace. We'll look at some continuing changes to our deregulated marketplace. Be quite a debate going on about this, but there are some things that we can do to allocate costs between business customers and residential customers in a fairer way. We can focus in on this issue of customer service, sending out a correct bill, sending it out every month, basic customer service issues that have really been disappointing in our natural gas deregulation experience. I'd like to say we're going to totally fix it this year. Like last year, we made some improvements. We'll make further improvements this year.
Teacher pay raises, you'd like to give a 3% pay raise to Georgia's teachers. Is that possible with the economy the way it is?
Well, we'll certainly know more tomorrow when we see Governor Barnes' proposal in his 2003 big budget. And we hope, and I know that Governor Barnes is really working hard to free up as much money as possible to provide a pay raise for teachers. We are committed to keeping teacher pay #1 in the Southeast. And we've moved up to now number 17 in the nation, which is a miraculous improvement in teacher pay. We really can't ever pay our teachers enough. Their jobs are so difficult. They're so important. But I do hope that we'll have at least a 3% pay raise for teachers and state employees this year. I think it would be great for morale. I think it would continue to allow us to attract the best teachers to Georgia, and that's very important for our kids.
One final question. You spent some time with me and a GPTV camera crew in Albany over the summer, talking specifically about issues that are important to rural Georgia. That's something that you've long taken a leadership position in rural Georgia. But how are these areas of the state coping with the recession, and will budget cuts affect these areas of the state?
It is a tough time in rural Georgia. The economy has slowed there as well. In many ways, My friends in rural Georgia, they didn't enjoy the economic boom of the 90s. In many ways, that booming economy passed them by. We want to use this time of economic slowdown to better prepare the communities of rural Georgia, get them more focused on education, partnerships with the technical colleges, colleges and universities, get everybody focused on improving test scores at the elementary, middle, and high school level, and working together, city and county commissions, chambers of commerce, to promote those communities for economic development. We got a great story to tell in rural Georgia. We're going to continue to tell that story, look for partnerships, look for opportunities. One Georgia has been a great success, and even in this time of budget tightness, One Georgia will continue to be there to spur job creation in rural Georgia where it's desperately needed.
We are out of time. Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor, thank you so much for making the time to be with us this evening.
You're quite welcome.
And we have invited Governor Roy Barnes to join us, as well as other top legislators, and we will continue to have in-depth interviews throughout the Lawmakers program. Gerald and Susan, back to you.
Thanks, Hamilton. Every 10 years, the Georgia legislature is faced with the project of reapportionment. Redistricting maps for House, Senate, and congressional seats were all passed in a special session held over the summer. But as many expected, legal problems were found at the judicial level in Washington, D.C. David Delsky is live from the Capitol Plaza, with more. David.
Well, Susan, so far there is no legal resistance for the House and congressional maps, but the Senate map is being questioned right now by the Department of Justice.
Reapportionment is never a simple process. Jobs are at stake and alliances disrupted.
You want control, and I don't want you to have control. I believe that the map that we did receive is illegal. I believe it to be unconstitutional. If Mr. Westmoreland was up there behind the podium and you had more than 91 members, we'd be voting on the Westmoreland plan. And it is just as political as is our plan.
Though House and Senate members had their expected disagreements, Senate Reapportionment Chairman Tim Golden believes this decade has so far gone smoother than the last.
The issues in 91 and 92 and 93 and 94 forward were a little different than they were this year. We obviously had the wisdom of looking at the court cases and trying to abide by those decisions. And I'm optimistic this year will be a little different.
Georgia falls into Section 5 in redistricting, where any map passed must be reviewed by the Department of Justice. And this is where the Senate map hit a speed bump.
That's the craziest thing I ever saw. Look at this.
Well, at this point, we, of course, the Justice Department had some reservations about Senate District 2, 12, and 26, so they had reservations about 3 Senate districts. And they're in the process of gathering their information to raise whatever objections they're going to raise as we go to court.
Though no one map will please everyone, Chairman Golden believes that the one that passed in the special session is the best map possible. Reporting live from the Capitol Plaza, I'm David Zelsky for Lawmakers.
But obviously, David, these are not set in stone.
That's right. There are plenty that are going on right now, but they need to have some legal review. The court hearings in Washington for the Senate hearings won't even begin until February 1st.
All right. Thanks very much, David. We have a correction to make. Last night, we reported that Georgia teachers got a 3% pay raise. The actual raise was 4.5%, and we regret that error.
For those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch this show, Lawmakers, online. Visit our website at gpb.org for more information. Click on Watch GPTV Online, then follow the instructions for watching live or looking at past Lawmaker programs in our archives. That website, again, is gpb.org, just another way we try to keep you apprised of what's going on here at the Georgia General Assembly.
One bill already on the fast track early in this legislative session is House Bill 994. That is because lawmakers need to correct a problem with current law regarding proof of car insurance. A law that went on the books in January 1 of this year, essentially says that your insurance card is not sufficient proof you have insurance. That law says that a database set up by the state is the only sufficient proof. The problem is the database isn't ready yet. So the House Insurance Committee approved a bill today that simply moves the effective date on the old bill forward to February 2003. Backers hope to have the bill through the House Thursday of this week, then to the Senate and on to the governor. In the meantime, Consumers Insurance advocate Kathy Steinberg is asking law enforcement officials to use common sense in citing drivers and warns everybody carry your insurance card.
Any driver should carry an insurance card, and if they lost it, carry something else, because we do require proof of insurance in Georgia. So don't think you don't need to carry anything. I think law enforcement people will generally try to be cautious and make sure if the confusion is a result of what to carry, nobody said don't carry anything at all.
Again, the bill, House Bill 994, is moving swiftly through the process. Backers hope to have it to Governor Barnes within the next week or so.
Georgia Senator Zell Miller says he's frustrated with petty partisan politics in Washington. While visiting the state capitol today, the former governor was surrounded by reporters who wanted him to comment on a speech he made to the Georgia Chamber of Commerce.
How do you explain that in a legislative body of 100 people, 59 votes will not pass a bill because 41 votes will defeat it? That's the way it is in the United States Senate today. And it's a problem that James Madison, the father of our Constitution, warned us about in Federalist Paper number 58 years ago. Tell me what's right about a system where one senator, representing 1/5 of 1% of the American people, can stop dead in its tracks a president, any president's appointment to his own team. Something's wrong with that system. And as I said last night, sometime somebody's going to come along that is younger and smarter and more articulate than I, and they're going to be able to explain to the American people just what a mess it is. And when they do that, when they get through, you're going to see the American people rise up like that crowd at the football field in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're going to throw both teams off the field.
Asked twice if he would run for a second Senate term, Miller would only comment that he wasn't going to go AWOL.
With public education at the forefront of both state and national government, charter schools are being discussed across the country. And Wandy Lawson joins us live from the Capitol Plaza with the story of one Georgia charter school. And Wandy.
Well, I'll tell you, Susan, when Governor Barnes first began his education reform program several years ago, charter schools were at the forefront. In fact, he said he wanted to establish 100 new charters here in Georgia. Thus far, 46 have been established, including Drew Charter School in Atlanta. It may look like a standard public school: students, teachers, classes, assemblies. But proponents of charter schools like Drew Charter School in Atlanta say they benefit from non-traditional administration.
And the idea is we're not going to worry anymore about whether you're meeting, whether you have the right number of textbooks or that kind of thing, that we're simply going to look at the results. At the end of the day, we're going to look at whether your students have achieved.
And students say they can see the difference.
When I came here, it became harder than it was. They were strict on me. They wouldn't give me no slack.
While a traditional public school is established by state and local boards of education, a variety of organizations and individuals, including parents, may start charter schools. A series of federal, state, and local laws govern how most public schools operate, but charter schools adhere to federal laws and the terms of a contract they enter into with the state. This allows the schools to set their own performance goals and greater freedom in hiring staff.
We're just employees of Drew Charter School. We're not employees of a larger organization, and we're very selective about who's a part of our organization, and if it doesn't fit or doesn't work out, then we do have people move on.
Like other public schools, charter schools are funded based on the per pupil equation for their districts. But determining the dollar amount can sometimes be difficult. Some charter schools have been established in unused storefronts or in pre-existing school buildings, but here at Drew Charter School, private donations added up to a state-of-the-art facility.
That right now, we are being supported some by the East Lake Community Foundation with some philanthropy to do that. But the ultimate goal for us is to not need any outside philanthropy to operate.
According to some teachers, it's the relationships that make the difference.
I mean, we do extracurricular activities with the children. I mean, going out, hanging out, going to zoo. On Saturdays, I've taken some of my kids museums or what have you, and we definitely encourage that. In the charter school system, whereas the public school system, it was a no-no.
And of course, it's important to remember charter schools are in fact public schools, but they are governed by parents. Reporting live from the Capitol Plaza, I'm Wandy Lawson, Lawmakers.
And Wandy, quickly before you go, describe the difference between a charter school and a magnet school.
Well, magnet schools are distinguished by their curriculum and charter schools by the fact that they're governed by parents. Also, magnet schools can be exclusive about who they admit, but charter schools must admit all students.
Okay, thanks so much.
Finally tonight, grits. They're a Southern favorite, and now Representative Doug Everett wants to give them the famous dish official status. Lawmakers' Jamie Coran has more.
It's a combination of ground and boiled corn, grits. This white porridge graces breakfast tables and restaurant counters every morning and could soon become an official symbol of the state of Georgia.
Grits bill to make grits a prepared food, a processed food for the state of Georgia. And the reason we put it processed or prepared food is we did not want to compete with any other foods that are grown in Georgia known for, such as the peach or the pecan.
The resolution is a bipartisan bill. It is sponsored by Democratic Representative Dorothy Polott of Savannah, Republican Representative Doug Everett of Albany, and Republican Representative Ben Bridges of Cleveland. Representative Everett says he has always wanted to give his favorite food some recognition, while at the same time promoting local grits festivals.
The National Grits Festival each year. And it's becoming a fairly large festival for our area down there in Warwick. Warwick itself is about 533 people, and it'll drag in about 5,000 people from around the country. And grits, it's a symbol of the South and a symbol of Georgia.
According to the Department of Industry, Trade, and Tourism, Georgia harvested 265,000 acres of corn for grain in 1998. 22,525,000 bushels of corn for grain resulted from that harvest. The harvest produced $54.6 million. Another interesting fact, the largest corn for grain crop Georgia has ever had was in 1976, when 133.9 million bushels were produced. And with over 80 ways to prepare them, you're sure to find at least one way to tickle your taste buds. All you need is a little salt and some black pepper, and sometimes a warm bowl of grits can hit the spot. And according to Representative Ben Bridges, it's also a healthy choice.
It's not too high in fat, it's no cholesterol, it's just tremendous food that's very nourishing for the body.
No matter how you like them, grits are as much a part of the South as sweet potato pie. And who knows, maybe someday that will be our official dessert. For Lawmakers, I'm Jamie Coran.
The resolution was assigned to the House Health and Ecology Committee and will come up for a vote later this session.
Coming up tomorrow, Governor Barnes is going to deliver his State of the Budget address at 11 a.m. We're going to be here to anchor a special live broadcast over our website. Our address is gpb.org. And just another reminder, Lawmakers is streamed live on that site every night that we're on air, and it is archived as well. And tonight you need to stay with us for Georgia Outdoors as they take a journey down the Altamaha. That is coming up next on GPTV. And later this evening, please be sure to tune in for part 2 of Mark Twain. That's a continuation of Ken Burns' newest miniseries. That's tonight at 8 o'clock.
That's our broadcast for the second day of the 2002 session of the Georgia General Assembly. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Susan Hoffman. For all of us here, good night.